OK. Well, look, how do you replace Rodri? Almost impossible, but when you're looking to the future, I guess, with younger players, there's Lille midfielder, Boadi in talks, agreed personal terms as well with City. He's 18 years old. He's going to cost £85 million, but is he good enough to be Rodri's replacement, and how much pressure is that on an 18-year-old?
As you said, he's 18. Like, he's learning his game. He's learning it's difficult enough to come into the Premier League, which is the most taxing on your body in world football. And if there's one player that Boadi would need, it would be Rodri. As I said, because then you have, as the shepherd, Rodri, you have the two old English sheepdogs with, young English sheepdogs with Henderson and Boadi, and he then can talk them through games. So this is a young player who's, he's got 8 caps for Morocco. Obviously did really well for Lille last season, which Liga and is totally different to the Premier League, and he needs help. Yeah, it's a big ask for him to come in and replace one of the best midfield players that's ever been in the Premier League. Very big ask.
Gosh, right, big ask. Big money, isn't it? So, Chris, you're going to talk us through Man City's most expensive teenage signings.
Yeah, I think this graphic probably highlights how highly Man City potentially rate Ayoub Boadi, because, look, he's basically nearly triple the amount of City's most expensive teenagers when you look at Vitor Rice there, Gabriel Jesus for around the nearly up to £30 million. The rest, you know, you're talking about Douglas Luiz at 10 million. City really haven't put this outlay forward for a teenager until this deal potentially goes through. So I think that like I said, that shows the ceiling that they think Boadi has, but it also shows that they think he's ready to come straight in the team. You don't spend £85 million just for potential. You're spending it because you think they're going to come straight into the team. Obviously, they haven't got someone in the academy they feel who can do that. You know, we were talking earlier, weren't we, in terms of teenagers coming in to replace almost stalwarts. And we were talking a little bit about Cesc Fabregas doing the same, potentially with Vieira. I don't know if you think that's a slightly different situation, or is that a fair comparison?
Yeah, I think with Vieira was more your physical presence, like 6'4", like box to box, where Fabregas was coming in and he was what I call the lender, like coming in and being very technical and just knitting sort of stuff together. But again, you're talking about Man City. I don't think Man City at this stage can buy potential. I think, as in the past, they've bought players ready-made to go in to the first 11 and not have to, you know, sort of find their way. They can hit the ground running. Whereas, say, you're looking at Boadi, it's a big enough ask to go into any club when you're 18, when you haven't played in the Premier League before, you know, let alone without, like, obviously the best players leaving. I just think Man City are a really good club, but I just think it's the wrong time to be joining them. I think because they're on that slight decline, and you looked at out of all the young players, you'd probably say that Gabriel Jesus was probably the only one who actually was like a major success.
It's true. I mean, yeah, you look at that list there. Yeah, like you're right. You know, there's nothing really to take, really, is there? And I think they're going to have to, you know, they're putting all their eggs in this basket, aren't they, with Boadi at £85 million. And you think he's going to have to slot straight in. Elliot, you know, you have to consider, I guess, as well, Elliot Anderson is a huge signing for them. They're going to hope that he slots straight in. Unlike Boadi, he has got that Premier League experience. So maybe he's the more natural replacement to Rodri. They think he can do the job a bit more lightly than Boadi. But again, very different players, you'd have to say, in terms of Anderson and Rodri as well.
Another very different player, but actually one at least with Premier League experience, Enzo Fernandez. They're interested in him, but would he be the right fit?
So, again, he has the physicality. He would probably be the nearest, I would say, the nearest maybe to Rodri, to sit in there, and obviously with the experience in the Premier League. But I think what the Chelsea are saying, they want 120 million, I think, and they said it was last Friday that if they hadn't put a bid in by 5 o'clock, then obviously Chelsea weren't going to sell. So if Man City going back rather than messing around, they've just got to bid 120 million. And so if you think, again, then you have 3 players that you have to knit into a new midfield system. And I thought that maybe they might try Nico Riley in there. Obviously, Rico Lewis has been playing in midfield. So what they're basically saying is that they don't think that those two are good enough to be as that holding midfield player. And if you look at Nico Riley, playing at left back, but he likes coming in midfield, and he's one with that physical presence, you'd think maybe he could be like the holder. Do you know what I mean? But obviously, then that's not the way that they're thinking.
How realistic could this move be, do you reckon?
Like Perry says, look, Chelsea put their deadline forward last Friday, and Man City didn't meet it, but it's not an official deadline. So obviously, Man City are well within their rights now to bid what they think Enzo Fernandez is worth. He remains a target still. They're very much interested in him. They've got 2 weeks left to make a bid. So look, City they'll take a view, and maybe Sunday's performance, and especially in midfield where they did get absolutely outrun by Arsenal, that will highlight a need for them to sign a midfielder. And Enzo Fernandez, Maresca's a big fan. He's been open about potentially, he's talked about wanting to leave potentially to Madrid, but that's not happening because they've ruled themselves out. So yeah, it's definitely still an option, Hayley.
It's strange that where we said about Maresca being a fan, when he had all the problems last season, he made him captain. So that's how much that obviously he really rates him.
Good point. So look, he could join, Brady could join, both or neither. Could there be another name that City should go for, do you think?
I think Goretzka from Bayern Munich. Yeah, because I think he's out of contract.
Breaking news, and Tottenham have confirmed that goalkeeper Guillermo Vicario has joined Juventus on an initial loan. The deal includes an option to buy him for £8.5 million. So Vicario is going to Juve on an initial loan. Of course, that will have a knock-on effect to the likes of Emi Martinez, who Juve were interested in. Looks like he'll either have to stay at Villa or find another club.
I would probably say the Newcastle manager, Isola, because you're taking over Eddie Howe. There's been a lot of upheaval at the football club. I feel like Iriola's probably got quite a lot in the, credit in the bank because of what he's produced at Bournemouth. So they know they're getting a good manager. And give him time. I think he's going to do a really good job at Liverpool. I think it was a good signing bringing him in. Isola's obviously unproven, so the pressure's probably going to be on him to get off to a good start. I just don't know if they are. I just don't know if they're going to get off to a good start. They've had so many problems. With Eddie Howe leaving, players leaving, I just feel like they're going to be under it big time, early doors. And if they have a few sticky results, they might, the fans might turn on it quickly. I really do think that. And it could be worrying up there. I don't think they'll go down, but I don't think they're going to have a good season.
Manchester City have opened internal discussions about a move for Chelsea midfielder Enzo Fernandez, with sources close to the club confirming an initial framework has been assessed by the recruitment department. The Argentine World Cup winner remains a long-standing admirer within Pep Guardiola's coaching staff, and recent scouting reports have reignited that interest at board level. City's midfield rebuild has been a talking point since the turn of the year, and Fernandez's positional versatility, capable of operating as a deep-lying playmaker or in a more advanced double-pivot role, fits precisely what the club's data analysts have flagged as a priority profile. Chelsea's valuation, understood to sit north of £80 million, has not deterred City's hierarchy from continuing to monitor the situation closely. Etihad campus, deep into the summer window. One phone call has just landed in Chelsea's boardroom, and it's got Enzo Fernandez's name written all over it. City don't chase reputations, they chase control of midfields. And right now, they think Enzo is the missing piece.